Well, folks, first it was our health, then it was our homes, then all levels of affordability for the most part, inflation, high inflation, a recession, and now they've revealed their next plan of attack. And they're not even trying to hide it anymore, folks. CBDC is here, okay? And some alarming information that we need to discuss, that we need to go over, that we need to prepare for, plain and simple, because this is happening. And if we are not ready for it, then we are ultimately going to be in big trouble based on what has already happened to other people, their money, and the banks locking them out, and ultimately converting the currency overnight and deeming that the prior medium of exchange, this bartering tool, this fiat currency, was worthless. Okay, folks, please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and if you guys want the truth, you know where to find it. I'm going to ask you guys, as I always do, to please stick around to the end of the video and watch it all the way through. I'm going to try to make this one quick, but I got a lot of information I want to share with you. I don't want it to be misinterpreted or misunderstood. So I think it's best if you just watch it all the way through, and we can comment back and forth once all this information is shared, once we have a full grasp of what's happening. So I want you guys to see this. I got some notes here, so I'm gonna pull this up so I can read these to you. I don't want to misspeak or provide you with any inaccurate information. But this is from Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System, Central Bank Digital Currency, CBDC. We have been exploring the potential benefits and risks of CBDCs from a variety of angles. Our key focus is on whether, key focus, folks, how a CBDC could improve on an already safe and efficient U.S. domestic payment system. While CBDC is generally defined as a digital liability of a central bank that is widely available to the general public, today in the United States, Federal Reserve notes, i.e. physical currency, dollars, paper dollars, cash, money, are the only types of central bank money available to the general public. Like existing forms of money, a CBDC would enable the general public to make digital payments. As a liability of the Federal Reserve, however, a CBDC would be the safest digital asset available to the general public with no associated credit or liquidity risk. Now, speaking of liquidity risks, I created a video just the other day about banking institutions, in particular, the liquidity crisis that the banks are experiencing, and updates from the FDIC meeting about bank closures and the notifications that they're going to be sending out on a Friday. I want you guys to take a look at that video and pay close attention. There's a lot of information in there that is telling about what we need to be preparing for moving forward. Let's talk about the pros and cons of a potential U.S. CBDC, okay? So according to American Banker here, it says that a flurry of tests near the end of the year suggest that CBDC initiatives are improving their pace. So what does that mean? That just means that, one, these tests are underway to get this new currency rolled out, CBDC. And two, apparently they're moving pretty quickly with it because it's improving their pace of getting this implemented, ultimately potentially taking over for the dollar. And about a dozen CBDCs have already been launched, according to a tracker from the Atlantic Council, which adds 17. 17 are in pilot and 72 are in R&D, research and development. So, needless to say, this is definitely being pushed and it's growing, okay? So expect this to more than likely have the capabilities of taking over. Quite possibly the worst part about it is the takeover, not just for those with money, but for those without. And we're going to talk about that here in just a moment. And here are some CBDC projects that are underway. Now, United States is one of them. And the New York Fed is participating in a proof of concept test. And once they prove that concept, then there's pretty much no stopping them at that point, in my opinion. Time will tell. Meanwhile, Russia is rolling out a CBDC pilot as well for real consumers as soon as April. So that's just a little over a month from now. And Russia's central bank is preparing to launch the first consumer pilot for the digital ruble in collaboration with 13 local banks. What does this all mean? Well, coming out of Russia, I mean, take it for what it's worth, okay? All I can say is they are actively engaging in taking what they feel as though is what they want, okay? So if they'll do that to a country, if they'll do that to a people, what will they do to your money? Again, folks, Bupe has provided me with a ton of information and assisted in the research and development of the content of this video. So one, I want to thank Bupe for her continued support, hard work, diligence, and effort that she's putting into this. And also congratulate her for creating an income opportunity for herself. So thanks, Bupe. And I'm sure everyone here watching feels the same way, because this is definitely helpful information that is going to bridge a lot of gaps of voids of knowledge and education and information of what's really going on behind the scenes. As we can typically track the trends to see how good or bad change may be. So check this out. CBDC in Nigeria. Is Nigeria forcing CBDC on its people is a good question. But number one here is that Nigeria was the first African country to launch a digital currency called Naira on the 25th of October 2021. And, again, boots on the ground, insider intel. Bupe does live in Africa, although not Nigeria. She lives in Zambia. I feel as though this is hitting close to home. Number two, at its launch, the CBN, the Central Bank of Nigeria, said that the Naira would only act as a complementary currency to the fiat currency of physical cash, and also a countermeasure to the unregulated cryptocurrencies. So obviously we know that the Fed, our Federal Reserve here in the United States of America, much like other countries, are adamantly pushing to work against the decentralized currencies, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, which is more than likely the world leader. We've got Ripple, XRP in their constant legal litigation, but they are afraid and concerned and worried about the power, the strength of cryptocurrency, which, folks, is a big deal. It's a big deal because you have to think our current currency now is built on a belief system of just abundance of trust and faith, backed by an entity, a government that has provided us with very few reasons to continue on with belief, trust, and faith. If that makes sense. It says here that last year, October 22, the CBN started the transition of the top three notes in Nigeria, the N200, the N500, and the N1000, to a redesign, and this transition was given a deadline of February 10th, 2023. But this was only the beginning of money shortages in the country, as there's simply not enough new notes to go around. So they've introduced this new currency, but they don't have enough of it. So that's creating a shortage of available currency. Now, this has led to peaceful protests from bank customers, which has led to banks like First Bank, GTB, Unity, Zenith Bank to be unoperational for as long as a full day because they were not allowed entrance into the banks by angry and tired customers. Can you imagine? Can you imagine how that would play out here in America? Now, folks will be attempting to hit the banks to withdraw, potentially starting a series of bank runs, only to find out that the banks don't have the new currency available, and your old currency may not be worth anything anymore. This shortage of new notes led to the creation of a forum called Nigeria Governor Forum, the NGF, which believes that this is a draconian approach by the central bank to deploy a cashless society and deepen digital transactions in the country. The consequences of these money shortages have included the emergence of black markets, food inflation, long lines at ATMs, and crowds in and within bank premises. And this is what I was talking about before, folks. The collapse would come. We got to realize the future of food, the profitability of food, and the shortage of food more than likely occurring as a result of people not being able to afford the food, as food is going to more than likely be one of the most valuable commodities out there that will fluctuate in price and ultimately be the most reliable medium of exchange, only to be sold to the highest bidder. Those who do not have the means and the resources may potentially starve. And the forum has also advised that the central bank to slow down in its attempts to transition the country to a cashless society in view of the dire consequences being faced by the country currently. And it just, the question you have to ask yourself is, does my government really care, or does your government really care about their people? Updated. Naira scarcity. Nigerian governors tackle CBN, accuse it of currency confiscation. Not good. The Nigerian Governor Forum, NGF, has accused the Central Bank of Nigeria of conducting a currency confiscation program that is causing suffering for Nigerians. And the governors also called for the halting of CBN's plan to end the use of the old currency notes. So, I'm not saying that we are, under the Central Bank of Nigeria or the Nigerian government's laws and regulations, but you can see how a central bank could potentially try to manipulate their way into control. And also the devaluation of any other form of currency if they really wanted to. So the governors said that it is our considered view that what the CBN is at present pursuing is a currency confiscation program, not the currency exchange policy envisioned under Section 23 of the CBN Act 2007. So basically, they've changed their minds, and they're not doing what they said that they were going to do. And currency confiscation is in the sense that the liquidity provided to the general public is grossly insufficient due to the restrictions placed on the amount that can be withdrawn regardless of the amount deposited. And this just controls the people. It just controls the people. Limited funds, limited access. The governor's stance comes amidst suffering by Nigerians who have found it difficult to access cash for their daily transactions. Goes without saying. And the government launches its first African central bank digital currency. So, as you guys can see, that this could literally be replaced with almost any other country's government. And this should be an indication of how the changeover, the switch, the elimination could occur for anybody. As we see multiple central banks, multiple governments running through their pilot programs, proving their concepts, and beginning to prepare to roll out this new CBDC. There are currently 2 mobile applications for using the CBDC, the Inara Speed Wallet and the Inara Merchant Wallet. Inara is projected to boost economic growth and improve GDP by a $29 billion US dollar increase over 10 years. And it should also bolster cross-border trade, accelerate financial inclusion among the underbanked and unbanked, and increase overseas remittance. So, one, you guys know how I feel about digital wallets. Cold storage is where it's at. And 2, we all know how I feel about the word inclusion. But also, increased overseas remittance would be great, especially for the underbanked and unbanked, because you guys have watched my video where I expressed the challenges with trying to transfer to the unbanked, being Bupe in Zambia, Africa, for the work that she's been doing. Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has issued guidances to simplify its operation, reduce transaction costs, encourage general use, and promote financial inclusion while reducing the risk of negative impacts on the financial system. The CBN is yet to clarify, or has yet to clarify, conversion between Naira and traditional Naira or other cryptocurrencies. So you got to think about it like this. If, as a central bank, as a government, running the monetary policy for a country, trying to control the money, trying to control the people, and also trying to control the decentralization of currency, well, think about it like this. Let's just say, for instance, we'll use United States dollar, for example. The Federal Reserve, the current administration, they enforce an executive order 14067, and there's a crossover to central bank digital currency tomorrow. Let's just say Monday. Let's just say Tuesday, because Monday's a holiday. Which, ironically, if a bank were to shut down, they would shut down based on the FDIC. They would shut down on a Friday, and odds are it'd probably be over a holiday weekend, and people would be losing their ever-loving minds the entire 3-day weekend, with no access to their money, no access to their funds, and no clue as to what would happen next. But if the government really wanted to do it, and they really wanted to put their foot down, they would introduce a brand new currency, central bank digital currency, CBDC, and then they would basically eliminate the dollar. Do they eliminate it immediately? Do they eliminate it with a deadline? You got to turn in all your dollars before they're worthless. Sort of like how the ATF is enforcing this new AR-15 short barrel rifle SBR pistol brace rule, and after the deadline, then you are now a felon. So you either have to hurry up and do something, or you have to hurry up and destroy it. Then they're saying, wait, what we need to do is we need to really poke our chest out. We need to really let Bitcoin and let Ripple and XRP and let these decentralized currency and these decentralized platforms and these exchanges know who's boss. So we won't allow people to convert their Bitcoin into the new CBDC, and as soon as the dollar is done, then Bitcoin, which is based on dollar valuations, will ultimately become worthless. Clever. Now, Inera is in part an effort to counter the rise of unregulated cryptocurrency in the country, with financial sector transactions banned in February. Countries with CBDCs generally peg them to fiat currencies supported by monetary reserves and ensure central bank regulation, thus reducing the inherent volatility in cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin. So basically, it's exactly what I just said. And the government wants their money. They want control. They want to be able to tax you as much as they possibly can, realizing that the people know that they can create a new medium of exchange if all it is based on a belief system and faith, right? And the government has proven that. The central banks have proven that. The Federal Reserve has proven that. Think about the current U.S. debt crisis that we're facing. Think about it. That they want to put an end to this because they do realize that they could potentially lose very badly. But odds are, if that were to happen, they would more than likely deem Bitcoin and any other decentralized cryptocurrency to be illegal and ban it. Just my guess. Just my guess. And, something like that were to happen, maybe we can see instances like this. Here, take a look at this clip.
Outside petrol stations and outside banks, residents of Lagos wait for hours to get cash or fuel, but neither are guaranteed. Ahead of the elections, Nigeria's economy is facing two major crises. The first, a cash shortage sparked by the replacement of paper notes with newly redesigned ones as the nation hopes to curb money laundering. In spite of a January 31st deadline, banks don't have enough new currency to swap for the old notes which residents are handing in. A crisis which has left people cashless and has forced businesses to close.
The ATMs are not working. Even when you walk into the bank, they will tell you they are not giving that money, that they don't have the cash. I mean the new notes. So it seems as if this is the only bank that is dispensing money.
The deadline for handing in old notes has been pushed back to February 10th. Petrol shortages are also plaguing the country. Nigeria is Africa's biggest crude producer, yet relies on oil imports to meet local demand due to refineries operating below their capacity. Outside this petrol station, frustrated drivers get into a fight as they wait the entire day with no certainty of getting fuel.
This is what we see every day, and I have to bring my children to school here every day, and this is what happens.
Less than a month before voting day, and frustrations are growing across the country, especially since the annual inflation rose over 21% at the turn of the year.
The worsening challenge of the shortage of the new Naira notes has been a source of worry to a larger number of the society. The situation has degenerated to a level which has prompted protests in major parts of the country. Recently, some members of the public protested to the central bank's office in Benin, where they expressed their grievances.
Account officials at Lagos State Judiciary on Monday stopped collecting old Naira notes. Ogun State government files application at Supreme Court seeking to join Kaduna, Kogi and Zamfara states in suit against federal government over demonetization policy. Lagos State government commences distribution of palliative measures to citizenry. Account officials of the Lagos State Judiciary on Monday stopped collecting old Naira notes as payment for filing of court processes. TVC News gathered that this decision is due to a directive from the official bank of the judiciary, Polaris Bank, to reject old notes deposited by the court at the bank on Monday on the grounds that the old notes were no more legal tender. Some lawyers told TVC News that this development has deepened the crisis on ground as Nigerians continue to grapple with the difficulty in accessing the new Naira notes as well as major network glitches in opting for e-banking. Recall that the Supreme Court's interim order on February 8, 2023 restrained the CBN from going ahead with the enforcement of its 10th February deadline for the use of the old Naira notes. The Ogun State government has filed an application at the Supreme Court of Nigeria seeking to join Kaduna, Kogi and Zamfara states in a suit against the federal government of Nigeria over the demonetization policy which introduced new versions of 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira notes. The state, in a motion of notice filed by its counsel, Afeba Balola and Co. on 13th February, sought to be joined as fourth plaintiff and applicant. The applicant in the notice further stated that it sought to be a co-plaintiff for the just and effective determination in the suit instituted by the other three plaintiffs.
Yeah, folks, crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Can you only imagine what we would be up against if that were to happen here and we were to see bank runs and people standing in lines to empty out the ATMs and try to fill up their gas tanks and try to buy groceries? Like, it would be a mess with the chaos and craziness that would ensue in a largely constitutional carry country. All I can say, folks, is get ready and prepare, okay? All we are saying is give us our cash. Now, these are comments from folks who are in Africa, in Nigeria, experiencing these problems and expressing their concerns on videos about the new CBDC policy takeover, swap over, and saying, you know, this is criminal. So bad. May God help our country, Nigeria. People are dying because of this. Bad governments is what Nigeria is facing right now, and I'm pretty sure that when the time comes, it won't just be Nigeria experiencing bad government and bad government policy. This is the consequence of over-dependence on institutions outside of our control, which I'm sure none of these folks ever actually voted for. And only in Nigeria, how can a government withdraw old tenders without making sure the new ones are available? And, you know, I think that this is not by accident, okay? No to CBDC, no to tyranny. Wake up, folks. This is a push, in my opinion, and I think we should probably really, really focus on this comment here. Bitcoin. So if you don't currently have an alternative, if you're not diversified, and if you're not planning and preparing for what is likely to happen, then I fear as though you may potentially be stuck between a rock and a hard place, and that may not necessarily be a good thing for you and your family in the interim, as I will predict that this crossover, this transition, this elimination of the dollar as we approach a new age of digital dollars and CBDC and a huge fight against cryptocurrency, particularly XRP, Ripple, Bitcoin. This is going to be a knockdown, drag out brawl. Okay. And for the folks that have very little resources, currently very little resources, i.e. money, income, passive income, diversification, cash flow coming in, this could literally suffocate and wipe out many. So with that being said, please continue to prepare. Please continue to gain more knowledge and more education. And by all means, you're more than welcome to come back here for all the updates. I appreciate you guys so much. You don't even know. Thanks for giving my videos a like on all my videos and subscribing to my channel and continuously helping to support each other in this community, in this network, in this family. You guys take care. Be safe. I'll see you real soon.